Join me in learning Chitas for Shabbos Parshas Mikeitz, the seventh Torah reading of Parshas Mikeitz. You can use your Chayenu and follow along to today's Chitas. Verse 30, chapter 43. Vayimar Yosef, and Yosef hurried. Ki nichmeru rachmav, because he was overcome with compassion, Elochi for his brothers. Vayivakesh lifkes, and he wanted to cry. Vayavoya chadra, so he went into another room. Vayef kshama, and he cried there. Ki nichmeru rachmav, he was overcome with emotions. The word nichmeru, Rashi says, means nischamamu, became warm, overcome. Lashna mishnah lakomer shalazesim, when something is overcome, it's ripened. Lashna rami mishum nichmar bisra, because of the warmth of his flesh. Ubamikra irin kasadr nichmaru, nischamamu v'nikmu kmotim kmotim v'pnei zalaf esarav, which means that because it became hot, because of the hunger, he was so, his skin creased. Shekin kol derech ershem nischamem meisa nikmer v'niskabit. Any type of flesh, when you heat it up, it becomes creased. So therefore, in this case as well, he was so overcome by the emotions that uses this terminology. Verse 31. Vayirchatzpanav, he washed his face, vayetze, and he went out, vayisapek, he held himself in, he held his emotions, restrained his emotions. Vayomer, and he said, Simu lechem, put bread. 31. Verse 30, I'm sorry, we missed one Rashi. Kenichmeru rachrav. Verse 30, and we missed the Rashi, the first Rashi, which he asked about Binyamin. Yeshlecha ach me'im. He asked him, do you have, Sholi, Yosef asked Binyamin, do you have another brother from your mother? Amar loisa, Binyamin told him, I did have another brother. Ve'ini yedei, but I don't know Eichanu, where he is. So Yosef asked him, Yeshlecha banim, do you have sons? Amar loisa, Binyamin said, yes, Yeshli asar banim, I actually have 10 sons. Amar loy, so Yosef asked him, and what are your 10 sons' names? Umashmam. Amar loy, so Binyamin told him, Bela, Becher, all the different names. Amar loy, so Yosef asked him, Mat tivan shel shemes halalu, why did you give them these interesting names? Amar loy, so Binyamin told him, Kulam, all of my sons were named al shem achi, about my brother, v'atzaris asher metza'u, and the suffering that he went through. Bela, he was called Bela, Shenivla ben Umis, because he was lost amongst the nations. Becher, Shayibacharlim, he was the firstborn for my mother. Ashbeel, Sheshavekel, that God brought upon him pain, suffering. Gera, Shagar Bachsanya, that he's living in a place that's not his. Naman, Shayinoim B'Yoser, he was a beautiful fellow. Achi V'Roish, Achiyaya, he was my brother, V'Roishiyaya, who is above me. Mupim, Mipi Avad Lomat, he learned from my father, Torah. Chupim, Shalayrasa Chupasi, he never saw me get married. I never saw him get married. We weren't able to celebrate at each other's chasana. The Erd, Shayard Leben Umis, that he went down amongst the nations, and we don't know where he is. This is the way it's explained in the tractate of Sota. Yad, when Yosef hears that Binyamin named all his 10 children after the events of Yosef's life, this caused him nichmur rachmav, that he was overcome by emotions because of it. Verse 31. As we mentioned, Vayirchatzpanav, he washed his face, Vayetzi, he went out to them, Vayisapik, he was able to restrain himself, Vayemer, and he said, Simu lachem, put bread. What does the word Vayisapik mean? Rashi says, Nisamitz, he was able to restrain himself, being strong to restrain oneself. Verse 32, and they served him separately, and them separately. And to the Egyptians that were eating with them, levadim, separately as well. Because it was not befitting for Egyptians to eat with Hebrews, lechem bread, because it was abomination for the Egyptians. What was an abomination? Rashi says, Dover sanu l'mitzrayim. This was something which was considered disgusting for the Egyptians, lechalas the Ivrim, to eat with the Hebrews. Unklas nasam tam l'davar, Unklas gave the explanation about it, was because they ate meat. And the animals, and the Egyptians served the animals, as we see later on as well. And therefore they did not participate together with them in the same meal. If so, the question that the Rebbe asks then, if they don't eat meat, what then did they tell them to go prepare? Didn't he tell them before, Tfayach Tavach, and go shecht food? And the Rebbe explains the differences, as we see what was the reason why which animals died during the plague of the firstborn were the firstborn of the animals. The Egyptians didn't eat the firstborn animals, but they ate other animals, while the Hebrews ate all kinds of animals. Verse 33. Vayeshvu lefanav, and Yosef had them seated before Yosef. The firstborn according to seniority, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked at each other in amazement. How does he know who's older and who's younger? Verse 33, Rashi says how it actually happened and says as follows. What he did was, what does it mean the older according to seniority? Yosef made as if he was a magician. Would knock his cup and say, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun, Bnei Yamachas, you're all part of one mother. Hasaba, you sit kaseder as according to this order. Shu seder tol desechem according to the way you were born. V'chein kulam, that's what he did with all of them. Kivan shegila binyamin, when it came to Binyamin, Amr said, Ze'in liyem, this one doesn't have a mother, v'ani in liyem, I don't have a mother. Yeshav etzli, so let him sit next to me. Verse 34. Vayisa maseis me'es panav. And he had portions served to them from his table. Vaterev maseis Binyamin. And Binyamin's portion was 5 times. Mimasis kulam chomish yad is 5 times more than all the other ones. Vayishtu, they drank. Vayishkuru imay, and they became intoxicated with him. Mases, what does this mean? Mases, Rashi says, verse 34, manes, portions. Chomish yad is chalkei mechav. If he divided amongst it with his brothers, it was mases v'yosef asnas, because what he did was he gave him, according to Yosef, Osnas, Menashe, and Ephraim, so that's why he got 5 portions more than them. Vayishkeru imay, umiyom shemachru. Umiyom shemachru olei shasu, because from the day they sold Yosef, they did not drink wine. Yayin. V'loihu, not Yosef either, shasa, drank wine. And because both of them were in pain from the very fact they were not together. However, that day they did drink wine. Chapter 44, verse 1. Then he told to the people that are in charge of his household, Lamar, saying, fill the people's bags full of food, as much as you can, as much as they can carry. And place the money, each one in the top of his pack. 2. Verse 2, and my goblet, the silver goblet, you're going to put it into the pack, in the opening of the pack of the youngest. And his money that he used to buy produce. And they did exactly as Yosef said as he spoke. Rashi, verse 2, what is Gevia? Gevia means kois oruch, a big cup, which was like a big becher, and it's called modernish. Verse 3. With the light of the morning, the men were sent on their way. Them and their donkeys. They were able to rest up from their intoxication, and now they were able to travel. Verse 4. As a year they had already left the city. They did not get too far. Yosef said to the people that were in charge of his household, Kum, get up, chase after those men, v'yisaktem, and reach them, v'amartem, you will tell them, set out and pursue them. V'amart aleim, you will tell them, lama shilamtem ra tachasteva, wow, dare you pay back good with evil. Verse 5, isn't this, after all, the goblet from which my master drinks from? And he uses it for his divination. You have done such an evil thing, Asher Asisam, that you have done, that you've taken his goblet. Vayasigim, they caught up with them. Vayedaber eleim, and they spoke to them as advarim eila, these words. Verse 7. Vayomeru elav, and they said to him, to the people that caught up to them, Lama yedaber adenika advarim eila. Sir, why would you say such things? Chalila lavadecha, it would be a disgrace for us to do such a thing. Yaseis kadavar hazeh, could do such a thing. Rashi, verse 7, Chalila lavadecha, chulin hulanu. This is something of weekday, meaning this is something of disgusting how even you accuse us about it. The Targum, lavadecha to your servants, chasmeis HaKadosh Baruch Hu yaleinu. May God protect us from such a thing. Yeah, so it's for Harbi Yesh Talmud, a lot of these similarities we find in the Talmud, And one of the famous terminologies, which are well known to everybody, chas v'shalom, meaning, God forbid, may this happen, that God should not allow such an event even to happen. They continue, verse 8. Not only after all, we brought you back the money that you found on the top of our bags. We returned it to you, Meretz Canaan, from the land of Canaan. That means we are so honest that even when you gave us back the money, we came and returned it. And how would we steal from your master's home? Gold or silver we would steal from your master's home? Rashi tells us something fascinating. If you look at the terminology that they tell us, this is one of the kal v'chomer. The kal v'chomer is a method of learning something. When you have something severe and something light, that you learn the severe thing from the light thing. So over here, as you see as well, Rashi tells us this is one of the 10 kal v'chomers that are mentioned in the Torah. The Medrash goes on to enumerate what those 10 kal v'chomers are. Verse 9. Whichever one of your servants where this was found will die. And the rest of us, will be to our master as slaves. Verse 10. And he replied, although it should be as you have said, that's the way it should be. However, the one that finds it, will be to me for a slave, and the rest of you will go free. Rashi, verse 10, while technically what you're saying is true, this is true that all of you are liable. However, the law is that if 10 men, one of them found a stolen thing only in one of them, they're all partners and therefore you're all guilty. Avlani, but I'm a nice guy, Yosef says. I'm going to go beyond the letter of the law. Only the one that was found by Yili Evan will be a slave. Verse 11, and they quickly, each one removed his bag, Arza put it to the ground, and they opened up their bags. Verse 12, and they searched each one, beginning with the oldest. Heichel they started with, Ubakot and Kila, and they ended with the youngest. And they found the goblet in the bag of Binyamin. Begodel, Heichel, why did they start with the older one? Shalei Gishu, that the brothers shouldn't feel or know that they knew exactly where it is. Verse 13, they tore their garments, and each one loaded his donkey by himself, and they returned to the city. They were very strong. Why did they have to do it themselves? They did not have to help each other because they were very strong people. They were able to load their own donkeys. They returned to the city. Weren't they in the city? Weren't they in the capital? They were in the capital. He calls it city. Like it sounds like a regular city. Ella, it's teaching us while this may have been a capital city of Egypt, but for them it was nothing of importance. For them it was just like another average city that 10 people are able to overcome. These 10 could take war and fight against the city in no time. Verse 14. And Yehuda and his brothers came to the house of Yosef. He was still there. And they fell on the ground before him. What does it mean he was still there? He was waiting for them. Verse 15. Yosef, and Yosef tells them, what is this action that you have done? That you have done, don't you know? That I, a person like me, I can determine the truth by logic. I know what's going on. I have that divinity. Rashi, verse 15, don't you know? Ki ish chashuv kamoini, like a person of my importance, that I'm able to logically figure out. I'm an intellectual. I know how to figure out things. You think I wouldn't realize that you are the ones that stole the goblet, Gavia, from me? Vayomer Yehuda. Yehuda said, what can I say to my Lord? Manidaber. How can we speak? Manitzadek, how can we prove our innocence? Alikim matzas aveina v'decha. Here, God has together found the sin of our servant. Behold, we are slaves to our master. Gamanachnu, us, Gamasher nimta gavia b'yodei, as well the one who has found the goblet in his possession. 16. Manitzadek, Rashi says, Elikim matzah, Rashi, in verse 16. This is what Yehuda was saying in the name of his brothers. Yoidimanu, we know, Shalir Sarachta, we did not do anything wrong. Aval, but being that this happened to us, Meisamokim and Yoisa, this is because God did it. Lahavi Lanuzais, to bring this upon us. Matzabal Chayv Makalig Beisrashari. God found who? A debtor, and the person came to collect his debt. And therefore, we know that we did nothing wrong. However, God brought this upon us, and therefore He's punishing other sins that maybe we have done. Mani tzadak, from the word tzedek. How can we even prove our innocence? So to every word that has in it the foundation of the word is with a tzaddik. It's coming to tell me a certain action that's happening before it. He puts a test instead of the vav. He doesn't put it before the first letter, which is the root word, like hitstadok. He puts it in the middle of the main word. Rashi over here gives us multiple different places where this is done, from Hosea, Yoshua, Mishlei, and all different places where we see and all of these cases where he moves the letter to the middle to be able to change its present tense. Now, Rashi also continues to say, we also find this when a person is other words that are changed, where depending where you put the letter, that they will change its present tense to past tense. For example, so he says, V'teva shetchila, a word that begins with a samach or a shin, k'shim mispa'elos, when it's happening, hatav mifaredas ha'isiyas ha'ikar, the tav will then separate the root letters, and they go between the root letters. Kigoyin ve'istave gechavav v'megizar savu mistakalav v'kanayim megizar sachol v'ishtamer chukas omri megizar shomer v'yasar meir mishtelu megizar melech yatzim shelo mistel b'amim megizar astedach le'salula. So he gives us again a bunch of different verses from Daniel, Micha, Yeshayo, Iyov, Shmois, all different places where one letter moves over, comes into the place right next to the root letter making the root word a different past tense, present tense, or making a verb, making how it should work and react to the verse that it's talking about. Verse 17, Vayomer, and Yehuda responds. Vayomer, and Yosef replies to them. This would be a disgrace for me to do that, to make you all slaves. The one who is found with the goblet in his hand, who you love it, he's going to be a slave. And you guys, you can go in peace to your father. As we said earlier, that this was Yosef trying to bring the brothers to the exact same scenario where the brothers put Yosef in the pit, and how would they stand up for their brother. Now Yosef can see, would they come to the actual appropriate teshuvah, because they're put in the same scenario. A brother's being taken away. Are they going to stand up for that brother? They can go back. They have now the opportunity either to defend their brother or go back to their father in peace. This concludes the 7th Torah reading of Parshas Mikeitz.